limitations of Wheatstone bridge network. So basically it cannot measure the high resistance because it is designed in a such way that it only measure the medium resistance. It cannot measure the high resistance. In the case of high resistance measurement, galvanometer becomes insensitive to show any imbalance. So what is the limitation? It cannot measure high resistance. It cannot measure the high resistance, and in the case of high resistance measurement, galvanometer becomes insensitive to show any imbalance. And there is another limitation, that is a limitation number 2. It also not able to measure, or this it cannot measure the low resistance, and it cannot measure the low resistance. It cannot measure the low resistance. In the case of low resistance measurement, your lead and contact resistance become significant. So basically in any given electronic circuit, we have to connect, for example, this resistor, we have to connect this resistor to this point, this resistor to this point. So there are some contacts, okay, and this contacts also has some sort of resistance. It provides a resistance to the circuit, or it shows some sort of resistance. Then these are the metal leads, okay, so these are the metal leads, and it also has some sort of resistance. And as we know that the resistors in the order of 1 ohm or less are called as a small resistance, and if you consider the lead resistance and the contact resistance, then this galvanometer, or sorry, this Wheatstone bridge network cannot be used. And so because lead and contact resistance becomes significant when you are going to measure the low resistance. So this is the second limitation of the Wheatstone bridge. So it cannot measure the low resistance, and in the case of low resistance measurement, lead and contact resistance becomes significant. And what is the third limitation? So the third limitation is that the standard resistance is required. Standard resistance is required. Which that resistor? It is R3. Standard resistance is required. So we have provided the standard resistance R3. Standard resistance is required, and which increases the cost of your system. So in a standard resistance, such as you can use metal film resistors, which is the standard resistance, and it is very costly resistor than that of your carbon based resistor. So when you use the standard resistors in the network, then the cost of the system will increases. So these are the three limitations of this Wheatstone bridge network, that is, it cannot measure the high resistance, and in the case of high resistance measurement, galvanometer becomes insensitive to show any imbalance. Number 2, it cannot measure the low resistance, and in the case of low resistance measurement, lead and contact resistance becomes significant. And the third and important part, that is standard resistance is required, that is R3, which increases the cost. Okay, cost is the another issue, so which increases cost of the system. So these are the limitations of your Wheatstone bridge circuit or Wheatstone bridge network. So this is related to your Wheatstone bridge and how to measure the unknown medium resistance using this formula and your Wheatstone bridge circuit or Wheatstone bridge network. In the next lecture, we will discuss, or we will design a bridge called as a Kelvin's bridge, and we will derive an equation in a such way that how the Kelvin's bridge is useful for the measurement of the low resistance. We will discuss this in the next lecture.